Welcome to Doodle Healing the Warrior Way podcast, where your life is your masterpiece. I'm Cindy Bayless, your Doodle Warrior Coach, here to help you turn self-doubt into unshakable confidence, rediscover your purpose, and create a life you can't wait to wake up to. Grab your favorite pen and let's doodle your way to clarity, joy, and freedom, one episode at a time. Let me start with something I've noticed over the years. There's a moment that happens for a lot of women in life. Life hasn't fallen apart. In many ways, it's actually working. You build a home, raised a family, build a career, handled responsibilities, solved problems, all of the things you were supposed to do. And yet at some point, a thought appears that you didn't expect. It usually shows up out of the blue while you're doing something else, driving somewhere, folding laundry, taking a walk. The thought sounds something like this. What else could my life look like? It's not a complaint necessarily, and it's not dissatisfaction. It's more like curiosity tapping you on the shoulder. But the interesting part is what happens next. Almost immediately, another voice jumps in and says something like, "Where did that thought come from? You should be grateful. Everything is fine. Why would you want something more?" So the curiosity gets pushed aside and life keeps moving exactly the same way it did before. Today I want to talk about that moment because curiosity about what might be next is not something to be dismissed. In many cases, it's actually the beginning of something exciting, a new chapter. When women start doodling in my classes, something fascinating happens. I'll ask them to draw a simple stick figure to represent themselves, and then we begin adding little details to the doodle. Sometimes we draw what she is carrying or what is happening around her. It's a simple exercise, but it reveals something important quickly. The doodle often shows what a woman believes she is allowed to. Some doodles are surrounded by responsibilities, others are carrying lists of obligations, and occasionally, there's a doodle standing in the middle of a blank page with plenty of space around her. When I ask what she's thinking about, the answer is often some version of, "I'm not sure what I'm allowed to want now." And that's a powerful response because midlife is one of the first times many women finally have room to consider what's next for them. The responsibilities that shaped their earlier years may still be there, but the intensity has often changed. Children have grown up, your careers have evolved. The structure of daily life begins to look different. And suddenly there's a little more space to dream. What we do with that space becomes the real question. One of the mistakes we make is assuming that curiosity about something new means there must be something wrong with our current life. But curiosity doesn't work that way. Curiosity is the brain noticing possibilities. You might feel drawn toward learning something new, exploring a creative interest, traveling somewhere different, or building something that didn't exist before. Those thoughts are not random interruptions. They're signals that your mind is beginning to imagine different ways of living. Psychologists who study motivation have found that curiosity plays a significant role in long-term well-being. Research published in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology shows that people who regularly explore interests that genuinely engage them tend to report greater life satisfaction and emotional vitality. In other words, curiosity is not a distraction from life. It's one of the ways human beings continue to grow. So when you notice yourself thinking about something new, it may be worth pausing to ask why that idea keeps coming up. Here's something I've watched happen with myself and with others. A woman feels interested in something. Maybe she considers taking a new class, learning a skill, or experimenting with a creative idea, like doodles. That thought feels exciting for a moment, but before she takes even the smallest step, her brain begins listing reasons it won't work. The list sounds very convincing. I'm too old to start that. I should have done it years ago. I'm not talented enough, or other people are already better at that than I would be. By the time the internal debate ends, the idea has slipped away. Nothing has actually stopped her. No one said she couldn't try it. The opportunity did not vanish. The only thing that changed was the story she told herself about whether she was the kind of person who could explore a new path. What's interesting is that many meaningful chapters in people's life begin exactly where certainty ends. They begin with curiosity strong enough to take one small step. There's another fascinating piece to this puzzle. When people begin exploring something that genuinely interests them, their energy often changes almost immediately. They become more engaged, more alert, and more enthusiastic about the day and their life. Neuroscience gives us a clue about why this happens. When the brain encounters something new and interesting, it activates the reward system and releases dopamine, a neurotransmitter connected to motivation and learning. Research from the University of California shows that curiosity can enhance both memory and engagement by activating these reward pathways. In simple terms, curiosity energizes the brain. That means exploring something new isn't about filling time or picking up hobbies. It's about waking up parts of your mind that thrive on discovery. For most of my adult life, I was raising my 6 children. My days were full of responsibility. There were schedules to manage, meals to cook, problems to solve, and people who depended on me. I became the person everyone relied on, and I was glad to do it. I loved my family and the life we were building. But when you spend decades showing up for everyone else, there isn't always a lot of space left to ask yourself what I might want. Eventually, that season began to change, and I realized that if I wanted to discover what the next chapter of my life might look like, I couldn't just sit there thinking about it. I was going to have to start exploring. So let's a doodle together. So let's doodle you off to the side. Give her feet and a heart, some hair and some eyes. Give her a slight smile because she has some curiosity and wondering what's next. She has a lot of choices, but she doesn't know what comes at the end of that road. So let's say that one road, she is interested in art, maybe learning more about art. And maybe here she would like to open a business, write a book, or travel more, or start traveling, or do some charity work, learn something new. Now, she can't learn anything about these things if she doesn't start exploring. She's going to have to go up the road just a little bit or decide which one is most important to her to start moving forward. So she's just going to choose one. Maybe she's going to say, I want to learn more about writing a book. I'm going to take a few steps on this. She's going to get curious about it. Maybe she decides she doesn't like that. That's okay. She's going to turn around and she's going to try an artist and she's going to take a class and she's going to be curious here. And maybe she likes that a little bit. So maybe she's going to take a step further and learn more. And maybe she's like, that's all I wanted to do is learn that a little bit. And now I want to try something else. And maybe she's going to try traveling and she's going to get curious and do some research on that. You see how that works? She's just exploring. She might go down every one of the roads, and that's okay. But then, as she's exploring, she might decide, this is the one for me. I like learning, right? And so I want to take this road and keep going. And I'm going to head towards becoming a person who learns more. And just like that, maybe she found her purpose. The star is her purpose, not the kind of purpose that revolves around making everyone else happy, but the kind of purpose that grows when you start discovering who you were meant to be and how you were meant to contribute to the world. But the only way to reach that star is to start exploring some roads. Wanting something more does not mean you are ungrateful for the life you have already built. In most cases, it simply means you have reached a point where growth is asking for a little more of you. Curiosity is often the signal that something new is ready to emerge. You don't have to redesign your entire future overnight, and you certainly don't have to prove that every idea will succeed before you give it a try. Sometimes the next chapter begins the minute you allow yourself to explore a direction that might excite you a little. If you're beginning to wonder what your next chapter might look like, I created something that can help you explore that question. It's called the Next Chapter Quiz, and it's designed to help you think about the direction, energy, and experiences that may be calling you right now, that may excite you right now. You'll find the quiz in the show notes, and it might give you a few ideas about what road you might want to try next. I'd love to hear from you. If your doodle was standing at the edge of these roads, what road would you explore first? Would you explore art, travel, writing, opening up a business, opening a charity, just plain learning more, or something else that you came up with? Please share in the comments and tell me what road you're curious about trying next. I read those comments and I love hearing what you're discovering. If this episode helped you today, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the next conversation. Because at the end of the day, it's your life and your masterpiece. Thanks for listening to Doodle Healing the Warrior Way podcast, where your life is your masterpiece. If today's episode inspired you, make sure to subscribe and share it with a friend who needs a little encouragement. Want more? Grab my free Doodle Your Vision Board guide. The link is in the description below. Remember, you are the warrior of your story. Your life, your masterpiece.